As you listen to my story, just understand that not all that glitters is gold. I have lived in a position many people probably envy, but I would like to share what my experience is so that others will understand what it entails. My name is Fayo. I am 39 and I am a pastor's wife. I have been one for the last 10 years. I had always sensed a call to ministry work in my heart, but I did not really plan to be a pastor's wife. I put it that way because I never even thought about it, so I was neither expecting it nor was I against it. How it happened, though, was the intriguing part. My husband had started his ministry right after he left school at the age of 23. It started off as a fellowship and evangelism work. He and the few people who worked with him would go out on Sunday mornings to evangelize those who did not attend church, and they held a fellowship meeting in the evenings. The ministry grew slowly but somewhat steadily, and they continued this model for about 3 years when they had about 100 people attending the Sunday evening fellowship. Based on feedback from members, the meeting time was eventually changed to Sunday mornings to become a regular church. But the model of Sunday morning evangelism still continued, and so there were teams that took turns going out for that on a weekly basis. I joined the church in its 6th year, and attendance was around 400 people at the time. I had been a Christian for many years too, but I had just moved to Lagos and was invited by a friend. When I attended my first service there, I knew I had found my church and I became a member immediately. After watching for a couple of months, I decided to join the evangelism team because it was very vibrant and I felt I could fulfill my call there. It was there that I got within a closer proximity of the pastor. The evangelism unit was directly managed by the pastoral team, and they conducted special training sessions for the team on a monthly basis. I did not know that before I joined the team. Anyway, to cut the story short, Pastor Henry, the lead pastor, expressed his interest to me about a year after I joined the church. He was 32 at the time and I was 28. I was not expecting it because there were several single ladies in church who had been there longer than I had. I told him to give me time to make a decision, and 2 weeks later, I accepted. My first baptism into the possible peculiarities of my role began immediately because he expressed to me the need for us to be discreet until he made an official announcement about it. I hadn't really considered the consequences of our relationship until he told me that. But when he did, I understood perfectly what he meant. We managed to keep it off the radar. No one in church knew about it. We only spoke to 2 of his mentors. After getting their blessings, he announced it in church officially. We had been together for 4 months at this time. Everyone was shocked, and I started to get all kinds of reactions from some of the ladies in church. Most were genuinely happy for us, but there were those who displayed their disdain or envy in their attitude. It was tough, but I had to learn to bear it all with grace. Many times, I simply ignored them. For some people, it was as though they tried to make a point of putting that attitude in my face to elicit a reaction. I handled it by intentionally maintaining a blind eye towards them. I told my fiancé at the time that I would rather remain like a general member of the church than create a special pastor's wife persona. I preferred to maintain my regular profile and not to have any special treatment, and he agreed, although I understood that I clearly had to fulfill the duties of my role by taking charge of certain things. Our wedding happened about 6 months after the announcement. I think it was then that the reality of it only dawned on some people, because some ladies left the church after that. Since our marriage, I've dealt with all kinds of things. People have all kinds of expectations of me and of our children, many unrealistic. Some expect me to attend all their functions because my husband is officiating in them. Some have criticized me for being too simple in my dressing, and others feel I am obliged to have an opinion about every mundane issue that goes on in the church. These are on the one hand. Can I talk about how it was difficult to get time with my husband because of the amount of time he spent counseling and speaking with church members? I had to insist that he create a strict schedule and adhere to it. Thankfully, we live not too close to the church and have therefore been able to keep our home private. The wife of one of my husband's contemporaries in ministry told me that because they lived next door to the church, people would flood their home after church and many expected to be fed. In fact, her husband had acceded to their expectations for a while, but she was able to convince him that it was not sustainable, and so they stopped. I think one of the most difficult parts to deal with is people expecting you to accept any kind of treatment they give you without complaining, especially since there are quite a number of people around our age or slightly older. I've also had to limit my children's association with church members' kids because I noticed how incidents among children could sometimes escalate to bigger matters if not handled well. I've realized that as a pastor's wife, everyone has an opinion on your actions and on almost every facet of your life. It can be difficult to deal with all that while striving to maintain one's own identity and individuality. My reserved personality has helped me a lot, but it has not completely shielded me. However, through God's wisdom, I'm getting better at handling things. I wish the ladies who were envious of me and the position I occupy would understand the hazards of this role. I'm sure they would not be so desirous of it if they did. Any thoughts about being a pastor's wife or what they go through? Please share in the comments below. Remember to hit the subscribe button and to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos.